Boston just watched a near MVP carry them to 56 wins. So why is his future suddenly being called murky? Because behind the scenes, the same front office that publicly calls him a cornerstone reportedly tried to trade him away. So today, we separate the confirmed facts from the rumors. Let's get into it. First, here's the plan. Next, we'll cover the season that makes this so strange, the Giannis swing that fell apart, and the report that Brown was inside the offer. After that, the real reason this is even a conversation, which is the money. Then, finally, an honest read on where this whole thing actually goes from here. This is Game is Culture. Before we start, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. So let's start with the part that makes all of this so genuinely weird, because before we even touch the trade talk, you have to understand the kind of year this player just put together. Because Jaylen Brown was not just good this year. Instead, he was flat out elite. He averaged 28.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per game. Furthermore, those numbers were all career highs across the board, so he didn't decline. In fact, he had the single best season of his entire career. Moreover, look at just how much he carried. His usage rate hit 36.1%. As a result, that was the second highest in the entire NBA. In short, almost no one in the league touched the ball more often than he did. So the offense ran straight through him, possession after possession, all season long. Because of all that, he finished 6th in MVP voting. So just think about that for a second. Boston had a genuine top 6 MVP finisher carrying the offense night after night. As a result, the one thing we can rule out immediately is talent. So this drama is not about whether Jaylen Brown can still play. But here's the crucial context for why he had to carry the whole thing. Because that workload was not a choice. Instead, it was forced on him by what happened to his co-star. Because Jason Tatum played just 16 games all year. He spent the rest of the season rehabbing a ruptured Achilles. So Boston's other franchise star was essentially gone for almost the entire campaign. Naturally, that left the whole load squarely on Brown's shoulders. So when you see those gaudy numbers, remember the context behind them. And yet, even without Tatum for nearly the whole year, Boston still went 56-26. As a result, they finished as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. On top of that, they ranked 2nd in offense and 4th in defense. So that is not a team falling apart. That is Brown holding it all together. So that brings us straight to the swing that changed absolutely everything for this franchise. Because while Brown was busy carrying the team, the front office was quietly working on something much bigger in the background. Because Boston decided to swing big, they aggressively chased Giannis Antetokounmpo in a blockbuster pursuit. However, in the end, they did not land him. Instead, in June of 2026, Giannis was traded to the Miami Heat over Boston. So the Celtics reached for a superstar and they missed. And here was the exact prize they missed out on. Giannis averaged 27.6 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. On top of that, he shot over 62% from the field. So this was the elite two-way talent Boston was reaching for when it put its plan in motion. Now here's the specific detail that makes Brown's future so murky. Because it's one thing to chase a superstar. However, it's another thing entirely when your own franchise player is reportedly the one being offered up. Because, and let me be clear, this part is reported, not confirmed. Brown's name was reportedly part of Boston's package for Giannis. Specifically, the report describes it as Brown and a pair of first-round picks. Notably, Brad Stevens then declined to say how close that deal actually got, so they wouldn't deny it outright. So this raises one very obvious question. Why would any team even consider moving a top 6 MVP finisher who just carried them to 56 wins? Because the answer, honestly, is not really about basketball at all. Instead, as is so often the case in this league, it comes down to the money.
So let's actually talk about the contract, because this is the real engine behind the whole story. Because once you see these numbers, the front office's thinking suddenly starts to make a lot more sense.
Because back in 2023, Brown signed a 5-year, $304 million supermax. Today, he still has 3 full seasons and roughly $182 million left on that deal. So that is an enormous number to carry on one player. Naturally, it comes with a massive luxury tax bill attached. And it actually gets bigger from there. On July 26th, Brown becomes eligible to sign a 2-year extension worth around $140 million. So Boston now faces a genuine fork in the road. Either they recommit even more money to him, or they seriously consider moving him while his value is sky high. So here's the central tension at the very heart of this entire story. Because what a team says in front of the cameras and what it reportedly does behind closed doors can be 2 completely different things. So picture it this way. On one side, you have a player at the absolute peak of his scoring and his usage. On the other side, you have one of the largest contracts in the league. That combination is exactly what makes him both valuable and hard to keep. Because publicly, Brad Stevens calls Brown a big part of the team. In fact, he flatly said, "This is our team." However, behind closed doors, they reportedly dangled that very same player in order to land Giannis. So the public words and the reported actions simply do not line up here. And that gap right there is the whole story. On one hand, they say cornerstone, untouchable, our guy. On the other hand, they reportedly showed they would at least listen on a deal. So when a front office says one thing and reportedly does another, a player's future gets murky in a hurry. Now let's be completely honest about what we actually know here versus what we're just guessing at. Because in a story like this, the rumors can spin out of control fast, so it pays to slow down. Because here's the honest split. Confirmed, Giannis went to Miami over Boston. The Supermax exists, and Brown's future is now openly murky. Reported, his name was in that offer. But the idea that Boston is actively shopping him at some high asking price, that part is pure speculation, not established fact. And I really want to be clear about that last part, because there is no confirmation that Boston is actively shopping him right now. Likewise, there is no reported asking price out there at all. So please treat that as the read, the interpretation, and never as a fact. Always keep those 2 buckets separate. So with all of that on the table, where does this thing actually go from here? Because that is the question everyone in Boston is asking right now, and the honest answer is genuinely uncertain. Here is my read, and only my read. Because they reportedly already offered him once, I lean toward a toss-up rather than a clean, easy stay. However, to be fair, absolutely nothing here is decided yet, so I land right in the murky middle of this gauge. Because in the end, it all comes down to July 26th. On that date, Boston can extend him and fully recommit to him as a cornerstone. Or alternatively, they can trade a top 15 player at the absolute peak of his trade value. So that right there is the real fork in the road for this franchise. So where could I be completely wrong? Honestly, very easily, because nothing here is actually confirmed yet. In fact, he could simply sign that extension on July 26th and end all of this drama overnight. So in truth, the murkiness itself is the entire story right now, and that is the honest answer. Still, always remember what Stevens put on the record here, because he publicly framed Brown as a big part of the team, plainly saying, "This is our team." So until that July date arrives, that public quote and that reported offer are going to sit in direct, uncomfortable tension with each other. We are so close to 1,000 subs, so subscribe to stay up to date.